Welcome back, friends. I hope you're having a great day. Jason is here again to bring you another story only here at Sorry What. As usual, grab a cup of your favorite drink, get comfortable, and let us begin. Ouch, damn, that hurt. I said to myself. I walked back to the bowl return, rubbing my arm and shoulder. It felt like my arm was stabbed by a knife. I rubbed my arm while I waited for my bowling ball to return. I grabbed my ball and did a couple of practice swings with the ball. I set myself and approached the foul line. Halfway through my downswing, I felt that stabbing pain in my arm and the ball shot right into the gutter. The pain almost put me down on my knees. I walked toward my teammates, rubbing my arm and cussing up a storm. AJ, are you going to be able to bowl? Bob asked. I just shook my head in disgust. I walked up to our table and sat down in my chair pissed. What happened? Ralph asked. I have no idea, just a sharp pain in my upper arm. There's no way that I can bowl tonight, I said. I talked with the guys for a few minutes and went to get my bowling bag. I put all my equipment away in the bag. I sat at the table with the guys. I'm pissed, I just got a new bowling ball, the Storm IQ Nano, and it smells like apple cider. Storm puts different scents in all their bowling balls. I just got that ball a month or so ago, and it is working great. I have been averaging 225 with the new ball, raising my overall average up to 210. I watched the first game, drinking a beer, as my teammates are taking it on the chin. As the great Detroit Tiger announcer Ernie Harwell would say on a home run, it's long gone. That is what happened in the first game. It's long gone by the ninth frame in favor of our opponents. I wish my team good luck in the next 2 games. I am going home to put some deep heat on my arm and take a couple of leave, I told the guys. I walked out to my expedition. I struggled to get my bowl bag into the back. Damn, it's hard to lift the 3-ball bag up that high, with a sore arm. I settled into the driver's seat and put on my favorite oldies radio station. They were doing an hour tribute to Bob Seger. He is one of my favorites. The first song is Ramble Gambling Man, and the second is 2+2 is on my mind. 2+2 was a cult song back in the 60s. It was Bob's anti-Vietnam song. While I listened to the song, I started to relive my years past. I remember my first girlfriend. Her name is Brenda Scott. She was a year ahead of me in school. She lived in a different city and went to a different school. She lived 20 miles away from me. We gave each other our firsts. I remember doing it for the first time on my bed at home, while my parents were gone on a weekend trip. I shoved my clock into her, and I had no clue what to do next. It felt like my clock was hanging in an empty space. She got scared and told me it hurt and to take it out. Fortunately, I had put a towel under us and there was some blood on the towel. After that first trial, we ducked like bunnies. How I never got her pregnant, I will never know. We never used any type of birth control, but counting days. Everybody knows that generally never works. Halfway through her senior year, she mailed back to me my class ring. We had been going steady by this time. She dumped me for a guy called Marvin. After she graduated, I got a call from her sister, asking me to come over. She wanted to talk with me. Her sister's name is Anne and she is 2 years younger than Brenda. She always had a crush on me. When I got to Anne's home, she told me her parents had gone out for the night. Also, Brenda is downstairs with Marvin. We were working on a puzzle when I looked up and there stood Marvin. He looked like a bum, straggly hair and a scruffy beard. He tried to intimidate me by doing a stare down on me. He left after Brenda came up the stairs to get him. Both Anne and I laughed at his antics. I can't believe that she dumped me for that loser. Later on during the evening, Anne took me back to her bedroom. She's a wild cat in her bed and ducked a sheet right out of me. It was a one-time duck and that is the last that I saw either her or Brenda. I forgot about Brenda and had a good time in my senior year. I am a very good student, carrying a 3.5 grade point average. But it would not be enough to get me enough scholarship to pay my way through college. Dad died 10 years ago in an accident. Mom got a nice payout. It is enough for us to live on, but she still has Scooter, my sister Sally, to care of yet. We talked it over halfway through my senior year and decided that joining the army is the way to go. Right after graduation, I enlisted in the army. I spent 8 years in the army, including 3 tours between Iraq and Afghanistan. I started out as a truck driver welder. I took welding for 2 years as an elective in high school at the Skills Center. I am a very good welder and a fairly good mechanic. I am a very good shot with the rifle. I am good at doing hand-to-hand combat. But I love the pistol and I am an excellent shot with them. I saw my fair share of combat action while doing my 3 tours. I received numerous medals and awards. I rose to the rank of sergeant before I had enough. While in the army, I took many different college courses, covering all the basic classes. I took a couple different foreign languages, Spanish and German. When I left the army, all I needed to do are a couple of years in my major, engineering, to graduate. I also went to a training school for welding, to advance my skills and learn new techniques in welding. When I got back home, I applied to the University of Michigan. They accepted me and I would start in the fall taking engineering classes. I would need 2.5 years to get my degree. Before I started school, there is a job fair that the school held. I attended the event and met some people from Ford Motors. I talked with their representative telling them about myself and my time in the army. I told them that I am studying engineering. That got them very interested in me. I told them about my welding ability also. A few days later, I got a letter inviting me to come to the Ford Motors headquarters in Dearborn, Michigan. I am to meet a Mr. James in the design division. Ford Motors is very impressed with your credentials, he said. But school work will always come before job work with Ford Motors. Ford Motors wants to make sure that you finish school with your engineering degree, he stressed. He offered me a job when I graduated. Also, he offered me part-time work for the next couple of years, when my school work would allow it. We hammered out a deal that is good for both of us, and I left there a happy camper. I worked my class schedule, where I could work Thursday and Friday afternoon, during the fall and winter semesters. Spring and summer semesters, I took a couple of classes in each to make sure that I could graduate after the following winter semester. I worked as much as my classes would let me. The end of August, just before Labor Day holiday, I had finished school, and took a week off from work to just take a break, and recharge my batteries. I have been going very strong for a full year with school and work. Bob, a friend of mine from work who also went to high school with me, invited me to a Labor Day cookout. Just show up, there will be plenty to eat and drink. Be there by 1 p.m., he said. I pulled into his driveway, about 20 minutes late. It is full of cars. There were plenty of people I knew from school and work, and some that I didn't know. Bob has a rather large backyard, with an above-ground pool. I noticed that the kids were busy playing in the pool. There are 2 big grills cooking different foods, going at full speed. In a large shed there were tables loaded with all types of food, and coolers with different types of beverages in them. I grabbed a beer and stopped to chat with a few classmates. As I talked, I kept staring at a blonde girl over by the pool. She sure in the hell looked familiar, but I couldn't place just where we crossed paths before. As I started to walk that way, Bob came up and grabbed me by the arm. "This is my wife Sandy. Sandy, this is my friend from work AJ, he said. We exchanged greetings, and I thanked her for inviting me to the party. "Come on, I want you to meet someone," he said. We walked toward the pool, in the direction of the blonde gal. "Hi Ivy," Bob said. "Hi Bob," Ivy replied. She, now I remember. Beatrice Ivory Smith, she was 2 years behind me in high school. If I remember right, she dated a guy named Kevin Smith, who was a year behind me in high school. It's kind of odd, because my name is Austin James Smith, but everyone calls me AJ. I stand 6 feet tall, and weigh 185 pounds. If I remember right, she hated to be called Beatrice or B, always goes by Ivy. Her middle name is Ivory. She was named after her 2 grandmothers. Ivy is a beautiful blonde, about 5 feet 5 inches tall, maybe 120 pounds, with a really nice figure. "Hey Ivy, do you remember AJ? He graduated a couple years before you did at our school," Bob said. "Yeah, I do." "Hi AJ," Ivy said. "Hi Ivy, good to see you," I replied. "Hey, I have to go check up on how the grilling is going. Catch you guys a bit later," Bob said as he left heading toward the grills. Ivy and I chatted for a few minutes when she called to a little blonde-haired girl. "Denise honey, it's time to get out. Lunch is being served. You can go back in the pool, but first we need to get something to eat," Ivy said. I could see the little girl in the pool. "Mom, do I have to get out to eat? We are having fun in the pool," she responded. "Come on honey, you can go back in after you have some lunch." "Okay Mom. Would you like to join us AJ?" "I would love to." We loaded up on some good food, hot dogs, hamburgers, baked beans, potato salad, coleslaw, and a bunch of pies for dessert. I am stuffed. Denise is a little chatterbox asking hundreds of questions. "Are you going to be my new daddy?" Denise asked. I choked a little bit on my food, and glanced over at Ivy, who is turning bright red. "Denise honey, AJ is just an old friend from Mom's high school. That is all," Ivy told her. "I guess I had better fill you in on what has happened to us," she said. "I guess that would help," I replied. "Kevin and I got married right out of high school. A couple years later we had Denise. We were talking about having another child when Kevin was killed a year ago in an accident at work. I got a nice payout, but it's not the same without Kevin. Kevin and I were soulmates. We just got a new house. Thankfully, he had insurance on the house that paid it off in case of an accidental death to him. I filled her in on my life since I graduated from high school. I told her of my time in the army and the place that I had been to. I was very vague about my 3 tours to the war zones. It is not something that you talk about with people that you don't know very well. We finished up our lunch and exchanged cell phone numbers. She followed her daughter back to the pool, and I went over to a few friends that I have not talked to yet. I had a good time at the party and thanked my host Bob. "What did you think of Ivy?" he asked. "We had a nice chat. Are you going to date her?" "I just met her, and I have plenty on my plate with school and work." "Okay, just glad that you had a good time. Thanks for inviting me. See you at work." I am extremely busy during the first 3 weeks of September, with classes and scheduling work around them. I finally got a chance to give Ivy a call. "Hi Ivy, it's AJ, do you have a minute to chat?" I asked. "Oh hi AJ, you sure, what's up?" she asked back. "I'm wondering if you were free this weekend to maybe go out for dinner," I said. "Oh I'm sorry AJ, but right now I am in a relationship with another guy, and I really don't want to mess things up with him," she replied. I bowed out gracefully as I could, and told her if anything changes she has my number. Well, that took care of that. Time to forget her and concentrate on my classes. For the next few months I worked hard at my classes, and filled in work when I could. Ford is very pleased with my progress both in school and at the office. The Sunday after Thanksgiving Day, I got a call from Bob's wife. "Hi AJ, this is Sandy, Bob's wife. I would like to invite you to Bob's birthday party next Saturday night." "Oh hi Sandy, I would love to come. What time is the party, and should I bring anything?" "Oh no, just show up and have a good time. The party will start at 5 p.m. Bob knows about it, so it is not a secret. It is just a party with some of his friends." About 5:20 p.m. Saturday afternoon, I pulled into Bob's driveway. There were plenty of cars there already. I walked in the house and gave Sandy a hug and thanks for inviting me. I shook Bob's hand and wished him a happy birthday. I put the gift on the gift table, and then walked over to the bar and got a beer. I turned around to survey the crowd, when a familiar face came over. "Hi AJ, good to see you," Ivy said. "Ivy, good to see you too, how are you?" I replied. "I'm fine, and you?" "Good, thanks for asking. So are you dating anyone special yet?" "No, between school and work, I don't seem to have a lot of free time. How about you, are you still in that special relationship?" "No, that sort of fell apart a couple of months ago, and I'm not dating anybody steady right now." We chatted for a while, until Sandy called out and said that dinner was ready. Ivy and I sat next to each other at the dinner table. I really enjoyed our conversation together. "My mother is watching Denise, so that she could go to this party," she said. Sandy had told her that I am coming. After dinner the birthday cake is brought out, and we all sang happy birthday to Bob. After eating the cake, a few guys brought the presents to the table for Bob to open. Music and dancing followed the opening of the presents. I made a date to take Ivy to dinner next Saturday night. We dated for the next few weeks. Ivy works for a big bank, and she invited me as her date for the bank's big New Year's Eve party. New Year's Eve, I picked Ivy up at her apartment. She looks absolutely stunning. She is wearing a black low-cut form-fitting cocktail dress that stops a couple of inches above her knees. Black nylons and shoes, with a set of white pearls around her neck, accompanied her dress. Thank God I bought her a wrist corsage, because I would have no idea just where to pin a corsage on her dress. We had a great time at the party. The cocktail hour, followed by dinner, is wonderful. The meal was tastefully served. Afterwards we danced the night away, with a big kiss at midnight. The party started to wind down around 1 a.m., and we said our goodbyes to the people at our table and left. I took her back to her apartment, and she invited me inside. She closed and locked the door behind us. She took off her wrap, while I discarded my jacket. She took my hand and walked me back to her bedroom. She wrapped her arms around my neck, and gave me a soft kiss. We greeted the new year by getting and giving massive hugs to each other. As I held her tightly, I softly whispered into her ear, "Happy New Year." Things went very good for us. By Valentine's Day we were going exclusive. At Easter time, I gave her a ring, and by June we were married. On our honeymoon we took a cruise, but I will be damned if I saw any of the islands. I got rid of my apartment, and moved into her house. Within a couple of years we had David, and 18 months after David, we had Linda. By that time we needed a bigger house. Her mom and dad agreed to sell their house. We traded houses with them, and paid them difference in the selling price. They had a nice 4-bedroom house, which was too big for just 2 people. Their house also had a big yard for the kids to play in. The trade worked out well for both of us. Their neighborhood was trending toward people with younger families, and all their old friends had sold their houses and moved elsewhere. Our old neighborhood has an older type of persons living there. That fit in well with her folks. Bob Seger finished up the song 2 + 2 is on my mind and started to sing heavy music. I reached over and turned the key to start the expedition. As I headed for home, I reminisced about what has happened in my life. I have a loving wife of 10 years, 3 kids, 2 are mine, one I love as mine. I have a nice home and vehicle, and a good paying job. My wife has a good job, and is a good mother to the children. Life has treated me pretty well so far. I only live about 10 minutes from the bowling lanes. As I turn on our street, Bob starts to sing this song Ivory. Normally on bowling nights I never get home before 10 p.m, but tonight the clock on my expedition says 8:05 p.m. I noticed a car parked out on the street in front of our house. I didn't pay much attention to it as I pulled into the driveway. I exit the vehicle and open the back door. I am humming the song, 2 + 2 is on my mind, to myself as I enter the house. It is awfully quiet in the house, odd that I don't hear the kids making any noise. I know they will be up since there was no school tomorrow. Maybe she went someplace with the kids. I never did check and see if her car was in the garage. I left my bowling ball in the expedition figuring that I would get it in the morning. First things first, get some deep heat and put it on my arm. I woke up the stairs still humming 2 + 2 is on my mind. I stopped as I heard some noise coming from our bedroom. I slowly walked to our bedroom door and pushed it softly open. There is Ivy on all fours on our bed, getting ducked from behind by some guy that I didn't recognize. I gave a loud gasp and went into some type of mental shock. Somehow I just could not believe my eyes. Ivy must have heard my gasp because she stopped ducking the guy, although he is still inside of her. AJ, go downstairs to the kitchen table, and as soon as I am done here, I will be down to explain everything to you, she said. I turned and walked down the stairs to the kitchen table in a daze. 15 minutes or so later, she came down wearing a robe and dragging a small suitcase behind her. AJ, I'm sorry that you had to see that. I didn't want you to find out that our marriage is over that way. I sent the kids to my folks' house for the weekend. I planned on telling you this weekend that our marriage is over and that I filed for divorce today. You should get the papers served on you either Tuesday or Wednesday, she said. I just stared at her for a few minutes and then mouthed the word why. I still love you, but not the way a wife should love her husband. My first husband Kevin was my soulmate. When we made love, the electricity just flowed between us. He would just touch me sexually and I would have a no. When Kevin and I made love, I would at least have 5 or 6 us. No man has ever made love to me like Kevin did. You were a good lover, but not like Kevin. I would get off from your lovemaking, but not that often. Ever since I met you, I was ducking different men, trying to find the one that would light my fire. You were my security blanket. I always had you to fall back to. You were a kind and loving husband and a good father to the children. All through our marriage, I must have ducked a different guy every month. Hell, I am not sure if our 2 children are really yours. Then Doug came to work at the bank. When Doug and I made love, Doug sent that same flow of electricity through me. I knew that I had found my new soulmate. I am sorry about all of this, AJ. I packed a bag with some of your clothes. I will pack the rest up this weekend and put them out by the storage shed. You can pick them up anytime after this weekend, she said. I am just staring at her all the time she spoke to me. I never said a word or asked any questions. Don't fight me on the divorce. We will split everything 50-50. We both keep our retirement, but you will have to pay me the difference between the retirements to make it fair. Also, you will have to pay child support, but no support maintenance to me. If you don't go along with this, I will make it very difficult for you to see the children, she said. I just stared at her. For God's sakes, AJ, say something, she snapped. I continued to stare at her without saying a word. She got up and walked up the stairs, without a word or look back. After a couple of minutes after she disappeared from sight, I got up and grabbed my cell phone, which was recording her whole conversation. I grabbed the bag she packed with my right arm. Ouch, that hurt. All during this time I had forgotten about my injured arm. I switched hands with the bag and left the house. I put the bag in the truck. I have always called my expedition a truck. I got in and drove around aimlessly, somehow ending up at the bowling alley. It seemed like forever since she dropped the bomb on me. But in reality it is just over an hour. I pulled into the parking lot at 9:15 p.m. I'm not sure why I stopped here. I guess I had no place else to go to. I walked into the bowling alley, and the guys were still sitting at the table. They must have just finished up bowling. Hey, look what the cat just dragged in, Terry hooted. Wow, you look awful, Bob said. What happened to you? Dave asked. I sat down at the table with tears running down my cheeks. I laid my head on my hands on the table and started to sob. They all looked at me with stunned faces. After I had calmed down, they worked the story out of me. I can't believe that witch, Ralph said. I looked around at the guys and noticed both Terry and Dave had their cell phones out. They both were talking on them, while both Ralph and Bob were trying to cheer me up. I just talked with my cousin. He practices family law and is a really good divorce attorney. He wants to meet with you at lunchtime tomorrow, Terry told me. Dave spoke up. My brother has a farm and he has a big empty shed. He will let me use his truck and trailer to move all your stuff into his shed for storage. I have a spare bedroom that you can stay in until you find a place to stay, Bob said. We all talk strategy over a pitcher of beer. A plan is made. We will meet at my house right after my soon-to-be ex-wife leaves to take the kids to school, and then go to work at the bank. We got a few other friends to help. One guy will be the spy, keeping tabs on Ivy, letting us know if she leaves the bank. It is nice to have friends. They all plan to take Friday off to help me. Friday morning after Ivy had left with the kids, 2 pickup trucks with trailers are at my storage shed, getting all my stuff out of the shed. There is nothing in the shed that belongs to Ivy. I am in the house packing up all my possessions and clothes. I am meeting with Marty, my attorney, at noon. We had sandwiches in his office. I retold my tale of the last couple of days. I told him about our financial situation. Ivy took care of the gas for her car, groceries, hers and the children's expenses. I took care of the house payment, taxes, household expenses, and maintenance of both of our cars, and any other expenses that might occur. We both have our own retirement funds. I make 3 times as much afford as Ivy does at the bank. We discussed what I wanted to do when I received the divorce papers. I want to fight her tooth and nail. If I am going down, I plan on fighting to the bitter end, I told him. Marty, I want to cash out my retirement and put it in a trust fund for my kids' college fund. I want you to be the trustee of the trust fund for both Linda and David. I don't care if I am their biological father or not. I raised them as my 2 kids, and I will take care of their college fund because I know that Ivy won't, I told him. The judge might buy it, setting up a trust fund with your retirement money for the children's education, he said. What I didn't tell him is that I'm getting my money out of Dodge. There is no way that count is getting any of my money. When I get done with her in this divorce, I plan to leave that ducking witch broke. I went and moved most of my money overseas into a secure bank. I had the guys slowly sell off all of my possessions that are in the farm storage shed. I sold my expedition and bought a junker. I had Marty set up another trust fund for both kids, which had $100,000 to be split between the 2 of them. The trust would pay them each $100 a month. Any more would be up to the trustee, Marty, to decide. At the age of 25, the trust fund would be turned over to them to manage. They could do with it as they please, without any strings attached. David is 8 years old, and Linda is 6 years old. The $50,000 each should last them at least 40 years, if they stayed on course and didn't deplete it when they got 25. Marty is to monitor them to make sure Ivy didn't take their money on them and send it on herself. There are specific guidelines set up on how the money could be used. I got served the divorce papers the following Tuesday. She sued for irreconcilable difference, and we countersued for infidelity. She got pissed and withheld the kids from me. We ended up going to court so I could get visitation rights for the kids. The divorce didn't go the way Ivy had planned for it to go. I fought her on every turn. We finally ended up in court. We couldn't agree on anything. I had quit my job at Ford and had financial documents that showed I am cash poor. I had paid my attorney a huge retainer to handle all the work that I am throwing his way. We have been fighting over this divorce for the last 6 months. In court she claimed that I had over $500,000 and wondered just what happened to the money. They were pissed that I had set up trust funds for the kids' education and well-being. They tried to get the judge to dissolve both trust funds. The judge overruled them. The trust funds were legal. The funds were for the kids only, and there is no way that I can get at those funds. They turned their attention to getting twice as much child support as possible. Your Honor, may I address the bench? I asked. The judge nodded okay. Your Honor, I have reasonable doubt that David and Linda are not my children, I said. Ivy jumped up screaming, you lying son of a witch, they are your kids. The judge bangs his gavel a few times. Counselor, would you please keep your client under control, or I will have her removed from my courtroom, he said. Ivy's attorney is busy trying to calm her down. The judge turned his attention to me. Now just what causes you to make that statement, Mr. Smith, he said. Your Honor, if I could play this recording on my cell phone, which might prove my statement, I asked. Ivy's attorney stood up. Your Honor, I object. We haven't heard this recording, and we have no way to determine if this recording is actual and factual, he stated. Objections noted, but I would like to hear this recording, and then I will rule if I should admit it as evidence, the judge said. He nodded to me to play the recording. I played the whole recording of her admitting to her numerous affairs, and saying that she didn't know if the kids were really mine or not. When the recording was finished, I turned it off and looked at the judge. He looked pissed. The judge snapped, "Counselors, please approach the bench." There is a lot of whispering and arguing. Finally, both attorneys returned to their tables. I am adjourning this case for 20 days. I want both Mr. and Mrs. Smith and their children David and Linda tested for DNA results. I expect these results to be complete by the time we come back to court for this case, he stated. 20 days later we are in court. I am wearing my full dress uniform, with all my medals and ribbons. I wanted the judge to know that I am a highly decorated veteran. I knew the DNA tests would show that the kids were mine. I just wanted to keep Ivy off guard and pissed. In discovery I had to produce the last 3 years of tax returns. The returns showed that I made $91,000 from Ford, and Ivy made $31,200 from the bank. With my bonus figured into my weekly total, I would make $1,750. After taxes I brought home around $1,300. When the judge agreed with Ivy's on what my child support, spouse maintenance, house payment, taxes, and maintenance would be, he also added in the deductible on health insurance. I was left with $250 per week to live on. Your Honor, may I speak? I asked. He nodded at me. I am the victim here. I didn't ask her to cheat and become a slut. I never did anything wrong. I am a good provider. I loved her and my children. She got the house she wanted, and all the toys to go with the house. She got the car she wanted. She got all the men she wanted. And I am the one who gets punished here. How is that fair? Where is the justice? I said. Mr. Smith, that is the way the law is set up. We are a law-abiding society and must live with the laws as they are written, he responded to me. Your Honor, this is supposed to be a 50-50 split state. I don't see a 50-50 split here, I said. With children involved the split becomes different, he replied. Your Honor, I have no way to pay. I don't have a job and I don't have any type of income. The rest of my savings is tied up in the trust funds for my children. I have no way to make these types of payments, I said. Well, Mr. Smith, you will just have to get your old job back, or find a different job. As of right now those payments stand, he said. Your Honor, I was in the army for 8 years, 3 tours between Iraq and Afghanistan. Over there the main law was to survive. You watched your buddy's back and he would watch yours. You took no chance, because one mistake and your life could end, or the life of your buddy. Do you know what it is like to watch one of your buddies get their head blown apart, and their brains and blood are splattered all over you? Or to have an RPG hit your vehicle, and have pieces of shrapnel flying around the inside of the Hummer slicing up your friends like Swiss cheese? There is honor there, not like the honor shown me by Ivy's actions, I stated. Mr. Smith, we all appreciate your valuable service to our country, but that has nothing to do with this divorce case. Is there anything else that you would like to add? He asked. Yes, Your Honor. Epilogue 1. I am finishing up writing this story in the county jail, compliments of my divorce case judge. I guess that he didn't appreciate my story of how the law would work. I was given the choice of 30 days in jail or $1,000 fine. Since I don't have any money, and no job to go to, I took the 30 days. Now back to finishing the story. Yes, Your Honor, I do have some more things to say if I could. The judge just nods toward me to continue. Just suppose for the sake of argument that instead of me standing here, you have a different person who is a decorated soldier of the desert wars. Unknown to you, this soldier suffers from battle fatigue. Somehow he ends up with a pistol in his hands. Just how the gun got there is unknown. Bang one shot between the eyes of the judge, and bang one shot between the eyes of his soon-to-be ex-wife. All this happens in about 5 seconds. He puts the gun down on the table, and sits down in his chair with his hands behind his head. I pause for a second to catch my breath. The bailiffs secure the soldier and take him to a holding cell, and then on to jail. Meanwhile, both the judge and the ex-wife are both dead from the gunshot wound. The soldier tells his attorney to contact the army, and tell them what happened. The army swoops down with a couple of JAG officers, and some doctors. They wave a bunch of writs and grab the soldier. They take the soldier back to Washington. After a few years of observation and testing, the soldier declared free of battlefield fatigue and release of all pending charges. Now, Your Honor, the soldier is free, and both the judge and the ex-wife are dead. But that is the law. Is it a good law for the judge and the ex-wife? The judge is dead and his families are mourning the judge's death. The ex-wife is dead, but nobody will mourn her loss. The law is on the side of the soldier. Is this what you call justice? Well, you can imagine that the judge is very pissed and wanted me stirring up on charges, but ended up citing me for contempt of court, and here I sit in jail. But it is not so bad in here. I am some kind of hero for standing up to the judge like that. In addition, being a war vet helped my standings in the jail. Epilogue 2. My 30 days are finished, and I am released. Marty is there to pick me up. He takes me back to my tiny apartment. He had my junker brought back and parked in its proper space. He filled me in on what has happened in the last 30 days. It seems that the bank got nervous and transferred Doug to the Dallas office. He never did hear if Doug's wife divorced him or not. Ivy got demoted to assistant head teller. She ended up filling in at different banks where they might be short of help for the day. She took a $5 cut in pay also. The next day I went to Ford's office and talked to my boss. We had this all set up before the divorce. Once I was ready, they would rehire me and send me to their new plant in Camcari, Brazil. Marty got me some time with my kids before I left. A week later I boarded a plane for New York, where I would take a plane to the Cayman Islands. After I spent a week there resting, I had $200,000 transferred to a bank in Camcari. I left Cayman Island for my new destination, Camcari, Brazil. After a couple of months there I met Maria Amanda Garcia. Maria is 3/4 Brazilian and 1/4 French. Extremely beautiful, with light Spanish features. She has a beautiful 3-year-old daughter named Monique. She named her after her mother. Maria is a widow. Her husband was killed 2 years ago in a car accident. She got a huge settlement from the driver's family. Also, her family is very well-to-do. Within 3 months we were married, and 4 months later our son Victor, named after her father, was born. We purchased a nice 5-bedroom hacienda together. I got a heck of a deal on the house. I wired my bank on the Cayman Island, and had them transfer another $200,000. Maria kicked in $200,000 also. One night I got a call from Marty. AJ, Ivy messed up with her new boyfriend, and got caught embezzling money from her bank. The kids are staying at Ivy's sister's house for the time being. I think it would be a good time for you to try and get custody of your children. I think that Ivy is going to jail for at least 2 to 5 years, he told me. Wow, that would be great if you could get my children for me. You know that I am remarried to a beautiful lady. Her name is Maria, and she has a daughter from a previous marriage, and we have a little boy together, I said. Marty came through and my 2 children joined us here in Camcari. Denise, Ivy's daughter from her marriage with Kevin, decided to live with her aunt back in Michigan. And that's it for today's story, my friends. I hope you surround yourself with good people like AJ's friends who would always be there to help you out, especially when you're at your lowest. Also, let's pray together for the member of our community and his mom. His username is DCD762. Brother, I'm worrying about you and praying for the health of your mom. Hope everything will be better soon for you. Don't forget to like and subscribe before you leave, and I'll see you in the next video.